The stars stretched endlessly across the dark sky like diamonds scattered over black velvet. The spaceship Aurora glided silently through the void, its polished hull reflecting the distant glow of nebulae. Inside, Commander Auric Kane stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the control panel, heart steady but mind alert. For centuries, humanity had watched the skies, wary of what might exist beyond the solar system. Now, decades after first contact with alien civilizations, humans had become a recognized presence in interstellar affairs, but not always a respected one. Most alien races saw humans as unpredictable, impulsive, or even reckless. Yet Auric knew that unpredictability sometimes held a hidden strength. The mission was simple on paper: a diplomatic visit to the ancient alien world of Virelia, home of the proud and secretive race known as the Kailari. The Kailari had long considered themselves superior to all others, boasting an unbroken record of victories and achievements that stretched back centuries. To them, humans were young, fragile, and insignificant, but Auric had a plan. He was not here to fight. He was here to show the Kailari exactly why humanity could not be underestimated. "Commander Kane," said Lieutenant Mira Holt, her voice calm but tinged with excitement. "We're entering Virelia's orbit. Sensors detect an armada of vessels approaching." Auric nodded. He had expected this. The Kailari rarely allowed strangers close to their homeworld without a show of force. "Maintain our approach pattern," he ordered. "No sudden moves. Let them see that we are unarmed and peaceful." The alien vessels shimmered in the planet's orbit, enormous and intricate, their hulls patterned with glowing symbols. They radiated confidence and pride, as though the stars themselves belonged to them. As the Aurora drew closer, a broadcast message crackled through the ship's communication system. "Humans," a voice intoned, deep and melodic, but carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. "You approach Virelia unbidden. State your purpose or prepare to face the consequences." Auric stepped forward. His voice was steady, clear. "We come as emissaries. We seek dialogue and understanding." There was a pause, as though the voice on the other end were considering the answer. Then it spoke again, this time with a hint of amusement. "You speak boldly for a race so young. You know nothing of our history, our achievements, or our power." Auric allowed a small smile. That was the point. They didn't know. The landing on Virelia was tense. The planet was breathtaking. Vast crystalline forests, cities of silver towers that pierced the clouds, and rivers that glowed faintly with phosphorescent light. As the Aurora touched down in the central plaza of the capital city, crowds of Kailari watched from above, their eyes shimmering like liquid metals. A delegation approached the humans, towering and elegant, their forms almost humanoid but with elongated limbs and intricate markings across their skin. At the front was High Chancellor Velrix, whose presence alone seemed to bend the air with authority. "Humans," Velrix said, voice resonating like a bell. "You dare walk into our city without permission. What is your intent?" Auric stepped forward, holding out a hand of peace. "We come not to challenge, but to understand. We come in friendship." Velrix's gaze lingered on Auric, studying him as if seeing through layers of flesh and thought. Finally he spoke. "Words are cheap. Deeds prove worth. Show us why humans deserve our respect." It was the challenge Auric had anticipated, a chance to shatter the centuries of arrogance the Kailari had nurtured. The next hours were filled with demonstrations, not of weaponry, but of ingenuity. Human engineers revealed devices that could manipulate energy fields with precision, solve problems the Kailari had considered unsolvable, and adapt in ways that defied rigid logic. Scientists spoke of exploration, diplomacy, and survival against odds the Kailari had never faced. And then came the moment. Auric was brought before the assembly of Kailari elders, a grand hall suspended above the glowing city. Silence fell as he stood in the center, all eyes upon him. Velrix leaned forward. "You speak of achievements. You speak of courage. But words are not enough. Show us a truth, human, that cannot be denied." Auric paused. He looked around, taking in the grandeur of the hall, the pride of the Kailari, the weight of centuries pressing down like a physical force. Then with calm certainty he spoke one word: "Together." The hall went silent. The word seemed simple, yet it carried a meaning that the Kailari could not immediately grasp. It implied cooperation, shared strength, mutual respect, the very concept of humility in a race that had long equated pride with power. Velrix's eyes narrowed. "Together?" You speak as if humans are our equals. Arik met his gaze steadily. Not as equals yet, but as partners we can face dangers no race could face alone. Our survival depends not on pride, but on unity. And that is a strength you have yet to see. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some Kalari were confused, others intrigued. For centuries they had measured power in conquest, in victories, in dominance. And yet, here was a human, young, fragile by appearance, speaking a truth so profound it shook the foundation of their beliefs. Velric stepped back, his expression unreadable. You are bold, human. Perhaps dangerously so. Arik inclined his head. Boldness comes from understanding the stakes. The universe is not kind to those who cling only to pride. Look beyond what you think you know, and you will see possibilities you have ignored for centuries. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was heavy, but in it lay change. Something subtle yet undeniable had shifted in the room. A seed had been planted, a thought that pride alone could not carry a civilization forward. Finally, Velric spoke, almost softly. Perhaps there is merit in your words, but the proof must come not from speeches but from actions. Tomorrow you will join us in the trials of Virelia, survive them, and perhaps you will earn our recognition. Arik nodded. We will participate with respect and integrity. But remember this, it is not only humans who must adapt. Those who refuse to consider new perspectives risk being left behind. As the human delegation withdrew for the night, the city lights of Virelia shimmered like a sea of stars. The Kalari elders gathered, speaking in quiet tones, and for the first time in centuries, questions of pride and superiority mingled with curiosity and wonder. Commander Arik Kane walked under the glowing towers, side by side with Lieutenant Holt and the rest of the crew. Tomorrow, he said, we show them what humanity can do, not with weapons but with heart, mind, and will. And one word can change more than 1,000 battles ever could. And somewhere deep in the halls of the Kalari, a thought stirred, a whisper of doubt, a flicker of possibility, that perhaps humans were not just another species to be dismissed. Perhaps they were something greater. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging that the first step had been taken. Tomorrow, the trials would begin. And nothing, neither pride nor arrogance nor centuries of tradition, would ever be quite the same again. The dawn on Virelia painted the crystalline forests in shades of violet and gold. Light shimmered across the silver towers, casting long reflections that danced like liquid. Commander Arik Kane stood on the observation balcony of the human delegation's temporary quarters, surveying the city below. Today was the day of the trials, a series of tests the Kalari had crafted to measure skill, intellect, and endurance, but also pride and adaptability. Lieutenant Mira Holt approached, carrying a small datapad. Sensors indicate the trials course has been prepared. It's unlike anything we've seen before. She paused, her voice tinged with excitement and caution. These are not just physical challenges. They're mental, emotional, even moral. The Kalari take pride in making them extremely difficult. Arik nodded, eyes scanning the horizon. Exactly the point. They expect humans to fail. That gives us the advantage. We'll show them that survival and strength come from adaptability, unity and determination, not just centuries of pride. Soon, the delegation of humans was escorted to a grand arena, suspended in midair, its platforms connected by shimmering bridges of light. The Kalari spectators filled the surrounding towers, their eyes gleaming like molten silver. High Chancellor Velric floated to the center of the arena, his robes flowing as if they had a life of their own. Humans, Velric began, voice ringing with authority. You will face the trials of Virelia. They will test your mind, your body, and your spirit. Survive them, and you may earn our respect. Fail, and you will leave with nothing but lessons learned. Arik bowed slightly. We are ready. The first trial was deceptively simple, a maze of reflective surfaces that seemed to stretch endlessly. Each turn mirrored the previous one, and subtle illusions hid walls, drops, and passages. The Kalari had designed it to confuse and exhaust entrants. Arik led the humans inside, relying on teamwork and observation. Look for patterns, he instructed. The reflections will deceive your eyes, but not your reasoning. Mira adjusted her visor, scanning for hidden anomalies. Commander, the walls themselves. They react to movement. I think it's adaptive. Then we adapt faster, Arik replied. With careful coordination, The team moved as one, communicating silently with hand signals and subtle gestures. Where one saw a dead end, another noticed a faint distortion in the reflections guiding the team safely onward. After hours of careful navigation, they reached the center. The chamber opened, revealing a glowing platform that lifted them to the next stage. The first trial had been passed, not by brute strength but by observation, reasoning, and collaboration. The second trial tested physical endurance in an environment entirely controlled by the Kailari. Gravity shifted, air pressure fluctuated, and obstacles appeared without warning. Giant crystalline structures rose from the ground, forcing the humans to climb, jump, and maneuver with agility and strategy. Velrix observed from above. They move with coordination. Unusual for humans, he muttered to an elder beside him. Auric encouraged the team using his understanding of human instincts. Trust your instincts, but also trust each other. Every action affects the next. One mistake and the path becomes impossible. They pressed forward, using ropes, leaps, and human ingenuity to bypass traps the Kailari believed were insurmountable. Mira discovered a method to manipulate the shifting gravity with simple leverage, a solution no Kailari had predicted. By evening, the team had completed the second trial, arriving at the next chamber with exhausted but exhilarated expressions. The human crew had survived where others might have faltered, but the trials were far from over. The third trial was the most unusual, a puzzle of diplomacy and moral judgment. Holographic representations of alien species appeared, each in a crisis scenario. The humans were asked to make decisions: who to save, how to allocate resources, and how to prevent conflict between conflicting factions. Every choice had immediate consequences, and the holograms responded in ways that forced quick adaptation. Auric studied the scenarios carefully. We must think beyond self-interest. Look at the bigger picture. Humanity thrives when we act together, not in isolation. Mira analyzed data streams. The system adjusts to our ethics. It's testing whether we can find fairness and logic under pressure. It's trying to teach pride a lesson. The human team approached each dilemma with discussion, compromise, and foresight. Their decisions emphasized cooperation, empathy, and strategic thinking. Slowly, the system's challenges became less hostile, almost acknowledging their understanding. Meanwhile, the Kalari audience grew restless. Many were puzzled. Why do these humans succeed where others would fail? One elder whispered. Their strength is not in dominance, but in something different, unexpected. By nightfall, only the final trial remained. The humans were led to a massive arena, where the laws of physics themselves were fluid. The terrain changed with every step. Floors became walls, air currents shifted, and light refracted in impossible ways. The Kalari had prepared the ultimate test, a trial that demanded intuition, creativity, and unyielding courage. Auric looked at his team. This is it. Keep your focus, trust each other, and remember the one word that started this journey: together. That is our greatest strength. The humans moved forward using their experience from the previous trials to navigate the constantly shifting environment. When a floor became a wall, they climbed it. When light confused their perception, they relied on instinct and coordination. Every challenge reinforced their unity. At one critical moment, Mira found herself dangling over a glowing chasm, suspended by a fragile energy bridge. She froze. Auric extended his hand, voice calm but firm. We do this together. Trust me. With coordinated effort, the team formed human chains, relying on strength, timing, and unwavering trust. One by one, they crossed the impossible expanse, finally reaching the central platform where a glowing orb awaited. The orb pulsed with light, a symbol of achievement and recognition. The humans had completed the trials, not through brute force but through ingenuity, teamwork, and unwavering resolve. High Chancellor Velrix descended from above, his expression inscrutable. Silence fell across the arena. For centuries, no outsider had completed the trials. For the first time, the Kailari were forced to confront a reality they had long refused to accept. You have survived, Velrix said slowly, not because you are stronger, faster, or more experienced, but because you have shown what we have long denied, that strength comes in many forms and pride alone is not supreme. Auric stepped forward, nodding respectfully. We humans respect what you have built and what you have achieved. But we also know that no race, no matter how advanced, can stand alone forever. True greatness comes from understanding cooperation and courage, not just pride. The Kalari elders murmured among themselves. Some faces were thoughtful, others resistant, but all carried a flicker of recognition that humanity's approach had shattered centuries of rigid belief. Valrix's eyes met Auric's once more. You have spoken and acted with wisdom beyond your years, perhaps. Humans are not to be dismissed as we once thought. Auric allowed a small, respectful smile. We hope this is the beginning of a new understanding. One word, together, can change more than centuries of arrogance. It can change the future. The human delegation left the arena that night exhausted but triumphant. As they walked through the glowing streets of Virelia, the city seemed different. There was an energy in the air, subtle but unmistakable, a sense that pride alone could no longer dictate the future. Back in the council chambers, Valrix spoke quietly to the elders. They have shattered more than our expectations. They have shattered centuries of belief. Perhaps it is time we reconsider how we view ourselves and others. Above, the stars shone brighter than ever, and somewhere deep in the universe the ripple of one word, spoken with courage and unity, echoed across worlds, challenging assumptions, shattering pride, and lighting the path to a future that had long been closed to those who relied only on dominance. The trials of Virelia had ended. But for humanity and for the Kalari, the journey had only just begun. The city of Virelia was quieter than usual the morning after the trials. The silver towers glimmered under the twin suns, reflecting light in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, like the world itself was observing the aftermath of yesterday's events. Commander Auric Kane stood at the balcony of the human delegation's quarters, watching as the Kalari moved through their routines. Yet something was different in the air, a tension mixed with curiosity, a subtle ripple of uncertainty and centuries-old confidence. Lieutenant Mira Holt joined him, datapad in hand. Commander, the Kalari are discussing us constantly. Every tower and chamber is filled with debate. Some elders are admiring us, but others are resisting. They can't decide if we are a threat or an opportunity. Auric nodded. That was expected. When centuries of pride are challenged, the world itself resists for a while. But they will adjust, if we give them a reason to trust us. The first sign of that adjustment came in the form of a formal invitation. A delegation of Kalari emissaries arrived, their flowing robes and metallic eyes reflecting both authority and hesitation. Leading them was Valrix, High Chancellor of Virelia, whose expression remained carefully unreadable. Commander Kane, Valrix began, his voice calm but heavy with scrutiny. You have passed our trials. You have demonstrated ingenuity, courage, and an understanding of unity that is rare among your species. Now the Council of Virelia wishes to meet with you. They wish to discuss the future, ours and yours. Auric inclined his head respectfully. We are honored. Humanity has long sought to build bridges, not walls. We are ready to discuss the possibilities. The council chambers were vast, a spiraling structure of silver and light that stretched upward as though reaching for the stars themselves. Every elder of the Kalari was present, their eyes observing the humans with a mix of admiration and cautious suspicion. Valrix gestured toward the central seats. You have impressed many here, Commander. But do you understand the magnitude of what you have done? The trials were not merely tests of skill. They were a symbol of our superiority, our history, and our identity. By succeeding, you have unsettled the foundations of our culture. Auric listened carefully. I do understand. That was never my intention to disrespect your history. We only wish to show that humanity's strengths lie not in conquest or dominance, but in adaptability, collaboration, and vision. Strength can come from humility as well as pride, and by combining forces we can accomplish more than either of our species could alone. A murmur passed through the council. Some elders exchanged glances. Others whispered quietly, and one elder, a tall, silver-eyed figure named Talrex, leaned forward. You speak with confidence, almost audacity. You suggest that we set aside centuries of experience and pride for what? Cooperation with a species you call equal? Auric met his gaze steadily. Not equal yet, perhaps. But partnership is not about hierarchy. It's about complementing strengths, learning from one another and facing challenges that neither of us could handle alone. The universe is growing more complex every day, Those who cling only to pride risk being left behind. The council fell silent. Velrix's eyes, gleaming with their usual sharpness, softened for a brief moment. You speak of the future as if it is within your grasp. Tell me, Commander, what do you propose? Arik stepped forward, placing his hands on the polished surface of the council table. We propose an alliance, not one based on submission, but on mutual respect and shared goals. Humanity has technologies, insights, and strategies that can aid the Kailari in exploration, defense, and diplomacy. In return, we hope to learn from your experience, your culture, and your achievements. Together, we can build a presence in the stars that no single species could accomplish alone. Talrex's eyes narrowed, reflecting centuries of skepticism. You speak of ideals. Ideals are fragile. Pride is the only reliable guide. How can we trust humans to follow principles when your history is full of conflict and chaos? Arik's expression did not falter. Because we have learned that survival is not about dominance alone. We survive by thinking, adapting, and uniting when it matters most. Yesterday's trials proved that. And history shows that those who refuse to evolve are eventually replaced by those who do. A pause filled the chamber. For the first time, the Kalari seemed uncertain. The humans' words were simple yet powerful, cutting through centuries of ingrained belief. Some elders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Pride had always been their armor, but it was not impenetrable. Finally, Velrix spoke, his voice measured. We will consider your proposal. But know this, trust is not given lightly. You have demonstrated remarkable qualities, but one misstep, one miscalculation, and our patience will end. You must prove that yesterday was not a fluke. Actions will speak louder than words, Arik bowed. Understood. We accept the responsibility. Over the next days, the humans and Kailari began joint exercises, exploring the outer regions of Virelia's atmosphere and neighboring planets. The humans' ingenuity quickly became apparent. Where the Kalari relied on rigid, centuries-old procedures, the humans adapted to unforeseen circumstances, solved problems creatively, and found solutions that others had considered impossible. During a survey mission on a nearby moon, the team encountered a dangerous gravitational anomaly. The Kalari navigators hesitated, debating which course of action preserved pride and safety. Arik's solution was unconventional. He suggested using the anomaly itself as a slingshot, redirecting their path with minimal energy expenditure. Velrix watched the operation from orbit, initially skeptical. But as the humans executed the maneuver flawlessly, a ripple of acknowledgement passed through the observation deck. The solution had been elegant, efficient, and bold, the kind of thinking that the Kalari had rarely embraced. Back on Virelia, debates among the elders grew more heated. Talrex argued for caution, emphasizing tradition and the dangers of trusting humans. Others, inspired by what they had witnessed, pushed for cooperation. Slowly, a shift began. For the first time, many Kalari questioned whether pride alone was enough to ensure survival in a changing universe. Arik observed these debates with quiet satisfaction. He knew that changing minds was a process, slower than passing a trial but more lasting than any victory. Humanity had proven itself in action, and now the seeds of transformation were taking root. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the skies in shades of gold and violet, Arik and Mira walked along the crystal promenades of the city. The Kalari are different now, Mira said softly. They are thinking, questioning. Some are even looking to us for guidance. It's strange. It almost feels like we've changed the course of their history. Arik smiled faintly. We haven't changed them. We've shown them a possibility they hadn't considered. The choice is theirs, but once someone sees that pride alone is not enough, nothing is ever quite the same. Suddenly a communication alert chimed. Arik opened the channel, revealing the face of Admiral Kira Dane from Earth Command. Commander Kane, congratulations on the successful trials. Your actions have been noted not just by the Kalari, but by multiple interstellar councils. You've opened doors that humanity has long sought. Prepare for further negotiations. Your next challenge will be political, not physical. Arik's eyes narrowed, a mixture of anticipation and resolve settling in. Understood. We'll approach it as we always do, with strategy, unity, and integrity. As the human team gathered that night, Velrix appeared in a holographic projection, his expression thoughtful. Commander Kane, you have unsettled centuries of Kalari pride. That is no small feat. We must now consider how to proceed. Humanity is no longer a curiosity. You are now a player in a galaxy where influence, diplomacy, and wisdom matter as much as strength. Choose your path carefully, Arik nodded. We will act with honor, High Chancellor, and we will continue to prove that humanity's greatest strength is in our ability to adapt, to unite, and to act with purpose. The Kalari elders remained in quiet discussion, their voices low but intense. Decisions that would affect the future of their civilization and its relationship with humanity were being debated for the first time in centuries. Pride alone could no longer dictate the outcomes. Outside, the stars of Aurelia's sky sparkled brilliantly, and somewhere in the endless darkness of space, the ripples of one word, spoken with courage, wisdom, and unity, spread further than anyone could predict. Humanity had not only survived the trials, it had begun to reshape the thinking of a proud alien race. And in doing so, it had set the stage for a future that promised collaboration, exploration, and possibilities beyond imagination. But challenges remained. Political intrigue, cultural clashes, and interstellar rivalries were inevitable. The Kalari were powerful and proud, and not all elders would accept change willingly. Humanity's journey was far from over, but for the first time it was a journey where one word had proven that even the smallest voice could echo across the cosmos. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new opportunities, new conflicts. And through it all, Arik Kane and his team would continue to stand as a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and the power of unity, the word that had already begun to shatter centuries of alien pride. The silver towers of Aurelia gleamed beneath the twin suns, but the city now carried a new energy. Whispers of change moved through corridors and council chambers. The Kalari were no longer the same. Human ingenuity, courage, and the single word together had left a mark that could not be erased. Commander Arik Kane stood on the balcony of the human delegation's quarters, gazing over the city. Lieutenant Mira Holt joined him, her expression thoughtful. "It's incredible, Commander. We've not only survived their trials, but we've also shaken the very foundations of their society." "I didn't expect such a strong response," Arik nodded. "We didn't just survive. We showed them that humans think differently. That's what unsettled them. Pride can be strong, but it can also blind. Once a race sees a new perspective, the old ways start to shift." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. Valrix appeared in a holographic projection, his expression serious. "Commander Kane, we have received intelligence that other species in this sector are watching our interactions with interest. Some may seek to challenge the Kalari, and by extension, humanity. Your presence is now of strategic importance. We need you at the council immediately." The human delegation moved swiftly to the council chambers. The room was a whirlwind of debate. Elders argued over the implications of opening their society to humans. Some saw opportunity, others saw threat. Valrix gestured for silence. "Commander Kane," he began, "the galaxy is not static. Other races will see our alliance with humanity and judge us accordingly. Some may attempt to disrupt it. You must help us navigate this web of influence. Your perspective is unusual, but it may be exactly what we need." Arik stepped forward confidently. "High Chancellor, the galaxy has always rewarded adaptability. Pride is a tool, but unity is a weapon. We are willing to share strategies, not just technology, but approaches to diplomacy and problem-solving. By doing so, we strengthen both our civilizations." Talrex, still skeptical, leaned forward. "And if humans fail? If your influence destabilizes us instead of strengthening us, then we learn and adapt," Arik replied. "Failure is never final if we analyze it, adjust, and act together. That is the difference between a species that survives and one that collapses under its pride." The council murmured, some intrigued, others wary. Slowly, Valrix nodded. "We will proceed cautiously. Begin with the smaller alliances. Introduce humanity to neighboring systems. Let them observe, assess, and learn before making any major political decisions." The next days were a whirlwind. Arik and his team traveled to nearby planets, meeting representatives of species unfamiliar to them. The humans' approach was simple but effective. Listen, understand, and offer solutions that benefited everyone involved. Where other races relied on intimidation or dominance, humans relied on collaboration. On a rocky moon orbiting a distant star, they encountered the Rilari, a species known for their strict hierarchy and suspicion of outsiders. The R'lyeh Council had refused negotiations with any species for centuries. Auric addressed the R'lyeh leaders. "We do not come to conquer or impose. We come to solve problems together. Your challenges are unique, but our skills and knowledge can complement yours. Together, we can achieve stability, safety, and growth for both our peoples." The R'lyeh were cautious, but the humans demonstrated practical solutions to environmental hazards threatening their colonies. Using adaptive technology and teamwork, the humans stabilized energy grids, repaired transport systems, and optimized resource distribution. Slowly, the R'lyeh skepticism began to shift. Back on Varelia, the R'lyeh Council observed these developments closely. Valrix addressed the assembly. "Humanity's approach is unconventional. It challenges our assumptions. Yet it is effective. Their influence is spreading because it is based not on coercion, but on mutual benefit. We must consider how this will affect our position in the galaxy." Talrex argued against it. "They are outsiders. Their methods may work temporarily, but they lack the depth of experience our people possess. One misstep and we will be vulnerable." Valrix's response was measured. "Or one misstep may teach us to adapt. History favors those who are willing to learn. Pride alone is not enough." Meanwhile, Commander Kane and his team faced another challenge. A diplomatic summit on the asteroid of Clymar had drawn dozens of species with competing interests. Conflicts threatened to erupt as territorial disputes, trade disagreements, and cultural misunderstandings collided. Auric studied the situation carefully. "We need to find common ground, not force agreement. Focus on shared interests. Every species wants security and prosperity. If we highlight those, cooperation becomes possible." Mira added, "We can demonstrate practical solutions quickly, show results instead of arguments. That always works better than confrontation." The summit began. Attention filled the asteroid's central hall. Arguments grew heated, and the room seemed on the brink of chaos. Auric requested the floor. "Leaders of the galaxy," he said calmly, "I understand your concerns. Every species wants to protect its people and resources. But we are stronger when we work together. Look at the successes we have achieved when combining skills, knowledge, and experience. Now is the time to apply those lessons on a larger scale. Cooperation does not mean surrender. It means survival and growth." Auric presented practical plans for resource sharing, environmental stabilization, and coordinated defense initiatives. He offered examples from their recent work with the R'lyeh and the R'lyeh. Slowly, leaders began to listen. Slowly, skepticism gave way to curiosity. Slowly, a tentative understanding emerged. By the end of the summit, agreements were signed, small but meaningful. The galaxy's leaders had begun to see that human influence was unique, grounded not in dominance but in partnership. Returning to Varelia, the human delegation received word that their reputation had grown. Stories of their problem-solving, diplomacy, and courage spread across multiple systems. Some species viewed them as a beacon of hope, others as a disruptive force, but all acknowledged that humans were no longer insignificant. Auric reflected on these developments with Mira. "We've done more than survive trials or debates. We've shown that one word, one principle, together, can ripple across civilizations, but we must remain vigilant. Influence is fragile. Misunderstanding or arrogance could undo everything we've built." Mira nodded. "And the R'lyeh? Are they adapting to this change?" "They are," Auric said. "Some are resistant, but others are embracing it. History will judge them, but for now the seeds of transformation are growing, and humanity will be part of that growth." In the council chambers, Valrix spoke privately to Talrex. "They are unlike any species we have encountered. Their strength is not in power, but in perspective. We can resist or we can learn. I choose to learn. The galaxy will not wait for pride alone to guide us." Talrex remained silent, contemplative. Pride was hard to abandon, yet the evidence was undeniable. Humans had proven that ingenuity, courage, and unity could achieve what centuries of experience and arrogance could not. As night fell over Varelia, the stars twinkled brightly. Far beyond the planet, ships carried humans and R'lyeh to distant worlds, weaving a network of influence that no race had anticipated. Conflicts remained, rivalries persisted, but the galaxy had begun to shift. One word, together, had created ripples that spread farther than anyone could have imagined. Commander Kane stood on the observation balcony once more, looking at the galaxy stretching endlessly before him. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "We've proven that humans can make a difference. But the real challenge lies ahead, keeping the momentum, building trust, and facing the trials that the universe itself will send our way." Mira joined him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "And we will face them together." Arik allowed a small smile. "Exactly. That is the power humans have always carried. Not just strength or speed, but resilience, creativity, and unity. That is what no pride, no arrogance, and no centuries of tradition can ever fully dismiss." The galaxy waited, vast and unpredictable, but for the first time, humanity had become a force that could not be ignored. And the Kaelari, proud as they were, had begun to learn that true greatness was not in standing alone, but in standing together. The twin suns of Aurelia rose over a city that was no longer the same. Its silver towers shimmered like polished glass, reflecting not just light but the subtle changes that had taken place in the hearts and minds of its people. The trials had passed, alliances had begun, and the word that had started it all, together, was now a quiet force guiding the galaxy. Commander Arik Kane stood on the observation balcony, the city sprawling beneath him. The hum of technology and the quiet murmur of conversation in the streets seemed to carry a new energy. Lieutenant Mira Holt joined him, her datapad glowing softly in her hand. "Commander, reports from neighboring systems have arrived," Mira said. "Species that were once skeptical are now observing humans and Kalari as a combined force. Some are even requesting joint missions, educational exchanges, and trade partnerships. The momentum is building faster than we anticipated." Arik nodded, eyes focused on the horizon. "That's exactly what we wanted. Not just recognition, but cooperation. The galaxy is vast, and there are challenges ahead that no single species can face alone. Unity is no longer optional, it's essential." The first sign of a major challenge came when a communication alert flashed across the human delegation systems. A coalition of neighboring species, concerned about the growing influence of the Human Kalari Partnership, requested an urgent summit on the neutral station of Arendor, located at the crossroads of several important star systems. The station itself was immense, orbiting a gas giant that glowed faintly green. Ships from dozens of civilizations were docked in its ports, each representing different interests, cultures, and histories. As the human delegation arrived, they were met with cautious stares, whispered conversations, and a palpable tension that stretched through the station's corridors. Valrix accompanied the humans to the summit. "Commander Kane," he said, "some members of this coalition are wary. They fear that humanity's methods will destabilize the balance of power. You will need to demonstrate that our influence is beneficial, not threatening." Arik's expression was calm. "We will not impose. We will offer solutions, build understanding, and show that strength is most valuable when shared. That is what together means." Inside the summit chamber, representatives from dozens of species argued, debated, and even shouted. Territorial disputes, resource allocations, and historical grudges filled the room with tension. Arik observed carefully, noting the fears and desires of each species. He stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "Leaders of the galaxy, I understand your concerns. Every species here seeks security, prosperity, and survival. We are not here to dominate or take advantage. We are here to collaborate, to share knowledge, and to ensure that every civilization has the opportunity to thrive. Yesterday, tomorrow, and always, the universe rewards those who work together, not those who rely solely on pride or fear." Murmurs spread across the chamber. Some representatives looked skeptical, but many were intrigued. Arik continued, presenting practical proposals for trade networks, shared research programs, and mutual defense initiatives. He emphasized that every species would retain autonomy, but by cooperating they could avoid conflicts that had long plagued the sector. A tense silence followed as the leaders absorbed his words. Then, slowly, a vote was called. The outcome was not unanimous, but it was decisive. A coalition agreement was formed, unprecedented in its scope and inclusivity. Species that had once viewed each other as rivals were now committed to dialogue, cooperation, and shared prosperity. Outside the summit, Valrix turned to Arik, his expression thoughtful. "You have done what I thought impossible. You have not just survived the trials. You have reshaped the perception of humanity across multiple civilizations. Your influence will be studied, admired, and perhaps envied, but it cannot be ignored." Arik smiled, but his mind was already on the next challenge. "This is only the beginning, High Chancellor. Influence is fragile. We must continue to build trust, prove ourselves, and lead by example." As the humans returned to Virelia, news arrived of a potential threat. A rogue faction of spacefarers, long considered isolated and irrelevant, had begun raiding outposts along key trade routes. Their attacks were swift, strategic, and unexpected, threatening the stability that the new coalition sought to achieve. Arik convened a strategy session. "We cannot fight them with sheer force alone. That would validate fear and pride as the strongest tools. We need to combine intelligence, coordination, and strategy. We need allies." Mira pointed to the coalition data. "We have allies willing to provide support, surveillance, and logistical assistance. If we act together, we can outmaneuver the rogue faction without unnecessary conflict." The plan was set into motion. Human and Kalari fleets, joined by coalition partners, moved in coordinated patterns through the sector. Using rapid communication, adaptive tactics, and careful planning, they outmaneuvered the rogue faction at every turn, cutting off supplies and neutralizing threats without unnecessary confrontation. The climax came when the rogue leader, a notorious strategist named Kael'thor, attempted to flee through an uncharted asteroid field. Arik predicted the move and coordinated a containment maneuver with precision. The rogue ships surrendered without a single loss of life. In the aftermath, Kael'thor and his commanders were brought before the coalition. Arik spoke to them directly. "Your strength lies not just in combat, but in understanding, adaptation, and cooperation. Today, you have been defeated not by force alone, but by unity and strategy. Learn from this, work together, and you can achieve far more than through raids and conflict." The message resonated across the galaxy. Humans had not only survived trials, formed alliances, and demonstrated diplomacy, they had shown that strength without unity was incomplete. Pride alone was no longer the ultimate measure of a civilization. Back on Virelia, the city's towers glittered in the light of celebration. The Council of Kailari acknowledged the humans formally, granting them honorary status as partners in shaping the future of interstellar affairs. Valrix spoke to the delegation, his voice resonating with respect. "Commander Kane, humanity has proven that one word, one principle, can ripple across the galaxy. Together, we have confronted centuries of pride, mistrust, and rigidity. Your courage, ingenuity, and wisdom have not only changed perceptions, they have changed history itself." Arik bowed. "High Chancellor, we are grateful. But this is not the work of one species alone. It is the work of everyone who is willing to see beyond pride, to act with courage, and to embrace the power of unity. We are stronger together." The Kalari Council erupted in acknowledgement, some clapping, others nodding in solemn agreement. For the first time in centuries, a proud civilization had recognized that collaboration could be greater than conquest. As night fell over Virelia, the stars shone brighter than ever. Ships traveled between worlds carrying messages of cooperation, shared discovery, and the promise of a galaxy that could achieve more than any single race could imagine. The word "together" echoed not just in conversation, but in action, in decisions, and in hearts. Commander Kane stood on the balcony once more, Mira at his side. "We've done more than we could have imagined," she said quietly. "The galaxy is changing because of us." Arik nodded, eyes reflecting the starlight. "The galaxy has changed because humans dared to speak, act, and lead. One word, one principle, together, can challenge centuries of pride. But this is only the beginning. The universe is vast, full of unknowns, and there will always be tests. What matters is how we respond, together. The wind carried a faint hum of energy from the city below. The Kailari, proud and ancient, were learning to see differently. Other species, skeptical and cautious, were beginning to trust, and humanity, resilient and bold, had cemented its place as a force of ingenuity, courage, and unity. For the first time, centuries of alien pride had been confronted, and the result was not destruction but understanding, not defeat but collaboration, not fear but hope. The galaxy awaited its next chapter, and Commander Arik Kane, Lieutenant Mira Holt, and the human delegation were ready to face it, side by side with allies new and old, guided by the power of one word that had already reshaped history. Together,